The research vessel Quiet Dawn drifted through the edge of known space, far beyond where most civilized species dared to travel. Captain Hyun sat in his command chair, watching the dark expanse ahead. His crew had been searching this sector for 3 weeks, following strange energy readings that appeared on no official maps. "Captain, we're detecting a structure ahead," said Lieutenant Bora from her station. Her voice carried a hint of excitement that made everyone on the bridge look up. Hyun leaned forward. On screen, the viewing display flickered to life, showing a massive facility floating in the void. It was built from materials that seemed to absorb light, making it nearly invisible against the darkness of space. The structure was enormous, easily the size of a small moon, with geometric patterns covering its surface. "How old is it?" Hyun asked. Dr. Minji, the ship's lead scientist, studied her readings carefully. She was quiet for a long moment before answering. "Captain, this structure predates every known civilization in the galaxy. My instruments suggest it's at least 4 million years old." The bridge fell silent. 4 million years meant this facility existed before any current species had even developed spaceflight, before most had developed tools. "Any signs of danger?" Hyun asked his security officer. "Nothing, sir. No weapons, no shields, no power signatures beyond basic lighting. It appears completely passive." Hyun made his decision. "Take us closer. Prepare an exploration team." An hour later, Hyun walked through the airlock with Dr. Minji and 4 security officers. The interior of the ancient facility was surprisingly well preserved. Soft blue lights activated as they entered, responding to their presence. The walls were covered in symbols and writing systems that looked familiar yet strange. "These are multiple languages," Minji said, running her scanner across the walls. "I'm detecting writing from at least 12 different civilizations, but none of them match any known species." They moved deeper into the facility, following a central corridor that seemed designed for visitors. The air was breathable, maintained by systems that had functioned flawlessly for millions of years. Eventually, they reached a massive circular chamber. In the center of the room stood 12 pedestals arranged in a circle. Each pedestal held a crystalline data storage device, and above each one floated a holographic symbol. The symbol slowly rotated, casting strange shadows across the floor. "A memorial," one of the security officers whispered. Minji approached the nearest pedestal carefully. She connected her portable interface to the crystal and began downloading its contents. The data flowed into her system and translation algorithms started working immediately. "It's a record," she said quietly. "A civilization called themselves the Architects. They were the first spacefaring race in this region. They rose, thrived for millions of years, and then—" She paused, reading ahead. "They fell. Completely. Not a single survivor." Hyun walked around the circle, looking at each pedestal. "What happened to them?" Minji moved to the next pedestal, then the next. With each one, her expression grew more troubled. She spent 2 hours downloading and translating records from all 12 civilizations. Each had left detailed accounts of their history, their culture, their achievements, and each had left warnings. Finally, Minji stood in the center of the circle, her portable display showing dozens of translated documents. Her hands shook slightly as she prepared to speak. "Captain, all 12 of these civilizations were advanced, more advanced than any species in the current Galactic Council. They had technology we can't even imagine. They controlled entire sectors of space, and they all died?" Hyun asked. "Not just died. They were destroyed. Completely eradicated." Minji looked up at him with fear in her eyes, and each one left the same final warning. The exact same words, translated through 12 different languages and millions of years. She displayed the text on everyone's helmet screens. The words appeared in simple, clear language. "Beware the sleeping giants of the third planet. They masquerade as prey while sharpening their claws. They smile while counting your weaknesses. They bow while planning your downfall. When they wake, they will remember every slight, every threat, every moment you believed yourself superior. Do not trust their patience. Do not mistake their peace for weakness. The third planet only pretends to sleep." Hyun read the words 3 times. "Third planet? Which third planet?" Minji pulled up astronomical data embedded in each warning. Star charts, coordinate systems, mathematical constants that could be translated across any civilization. Every single warning pointed to the same location. "Captain, the third planet from the star they're describing is Earth. Our Earth. These warnings are about humanity." The security team exchanged glances. One of them laughed nervously. That's impossible. Humans have only been in space for a few centuries. 4 million years ago, we were barely using stone tools. I know, Minji said. But the coordinates are exact. The astronomical data is precise. There's no mistake. 12 separate civilizations, spread across millions of years, all left warnings about Earth. Hyun stood silent, processing this information. He thought about Earth's history, about humanity's relatively peaceful integration into the Galactic Council 300 years ago. Humans were considered cautious, diplomatic, perhaps a bit boring compared to some of the more aggressive species. Could they have been warning about someone else who lived on Earth, before us? Minji shook her head. The descriptions include biological details: bipedal, bilateral symmetry, forward-facing eyes of a predator species. They're describing humans, Captain, or something very much like humans. Hyun made a decision. Copy everything. Every byte of data. We take it back to Earth and let the experts figure this out. As they prepared to leave, Minji noticed something else. Between the 12 pedestals, barely visible in the floor, were faint inscriptions. She knelt down and translated them carefully. Captain, there's more. These are dates. Not when these civilizations fell, but when they encountered Earth. The dates are spaced apart by hundreds of thousands of years. So if these dates are accurate, humans or pre-humans were somehow involved in galactic affairs for millions of years. But we have no record of it. No evidence. No memory. She looked up at him. It's like humanity deliberately forgot. On the return journey to Council space, Hyun sent an encrypted report to Earth Command. He marked it with the highest security classification. The contents were explosive, potentially civilization-ending if handled poorly. But somewhere in the data transmission, something went wrong. Or perhaps something went right, depending on one's perspective. Fragments of the report began appearing on public networks, anonymous posts on galactic forums, whispers in trading stations. Within a week, everyone knew. The Galactic Council knew. The major military powers knew. The merchant guilds and independent colonies all knew. Ancient warnings had been found. 12 dead civilizations had left the same message. And every warning pointed at humanity. Ambassador Ji-won sat in her office on Nexus Prime Station when she received the news. She read the leaked reports carefully, her expression never changing. Then she opened a secure channel to Earth using an encryption code known only to a handful of people. "This is Ambassador Ji-won," she said calmly. "The archive has been discovered. Recommend we proceed to Contingency Omega. On Earth, deep beneath the Gobi Desert, a facility that appeared on no maps received her transmission." General Hana sat at her command station and smiled. "Finally," she said softly. "Send the signal to all stations. Wake the sleepers. Let the galaxy see what they've been afraid of all along." In orbit around distant stars, on moons and asteroids across dozens of systems, hidden facilities began powering up. Ships that had waited in silence started their engines. Weapons that had been dormant for generations armed themselves and ran system checks. Earth was waking up. And the galaxy was about to understand why 12 civilizations had left warnings. The emergency session of the Galactic Council convened 2 days after the warnings became public knowledge. The circular chamber on Nexus Prime Station held representatives from 47 species, all of them demanding answers from the human delegation. Ambassador Ji-won walked to the center platform with calm, measured steps. She wore simple, formal attire, her expression pleasant and open. To anyone watching, she seemed completely at ease, almost amused by the situation. Councillor Orn, the ancient leader of the Therosian people, presided over the session. His species had been part of galactic civilization for over 10,000 years, longer than most. He had seen empires rise and fall. His voice carried weight. "Ambassador Ji-won," Orn began, "the Council requires an explanation. 12 extinct civilizations have left warnings about your species. Warnings that suggest humanity poses an existential threat to galactic peace." Ji-won nodded politely. "I understand the Council's concern, Counselor. However, I must point out that these warnings date back millions of years. Humanity has been part of the Galactic Council for 3 centuries without a single act of aggression against any member species." "That proves nothing," interrupted the Kelvorian delegate, his scales flushing red with agitation. "Perhaps you have been waiting, watching, planning. Planning what, exactly? Jiwan asked, spreading her hands. We are one species among many. Our military consists of defensive installations and patrol ships. Our colonies are few and far between. What threat could we possibly pose? Orn raised a hand for silence. Nevertheless, the Council has voted to conduct a formal investigation. We have appointed Inquisitor Vel to examine Earth's historical records and current military capabilities. You will cooperate fully. Jiwan bowed slightly. Of course. Earth has nothing to hide. 3 days later, Inquisitor Vel arrived at Earth's orbital headquarters. He was a Therosian like Counselor Orn, but younger and more aggressive in his methods. His team of analysts began requesting data immediately. Dr. Minji was assigned to assist the investigation. She sat across from Vel in a conference room, providing access to historical databases. Your species has a violent history, Vel observed, scrolling through records of human warfare. You have fought each other constantly. World wars, regional conflicts, civil wars. Why should we believe you won't turn this violence outward? Minji chose her words carefully. Every species has conflict in its past. Humans learned from our mistakes. That's why we approached first contact cautiously. That's why we've been peaceful members of the Council. Vel pulled up a specific record. This conflict ended in 1945 with the use of nuclear weapons. Devastating power. Yet within 20 years your species had stopped using such weapons in warfare. Why? We recognized their danger. We chose restraint. Or, Vel said slowly, you realized they were inefficient and developed better weapons in secret. Minji didn't answer. Vel noted her silence. Over the following weeks, Vel's investigation deepened. His team examined Earth's industrial output, energy consumption, and resource allocation. Strange patterns emerged. Look at these numbers, Vel told his assistant. Earth's official population is 8 billion. Their resource consumption should match that population. But the actual energy usage is lower. Significantly lower. Perhaps they're more efficient? No species is this efficient. Either Earth's population is much smaller than claimed, or resources are being diverted somewhere else. Vel expanded his investigation to human colonies. There were officially 17 of them, small settlements on various worlds within 10 light years of Earth. He visited 3 personally. Each colony appeared modest. Few thousand residents, basic agriculture, some light industry. Nothing unusual. But when Vel cross-referenced supply shipments with colony requirements, the numbers didn't match. These colonies are receiving 3 times the construction materials they should need, he reported to Counselor Orn. Either they're incredibly wasteful, or they're building things they're not declaring. Orn authorized deeper scans of human space. Council sensors, the most advanced in the galaxy, were turned toward the Sol system. That's when they detected the lunar facility. It was hidden on the far side of Earth's moon, buried beneath regolith and shielded by technology that shouldn't exist. The facility was enormous, easily the size of a major city. When Council sensors tried to penetrate the shielding, they were blocked by interference that appeared natural but was mathematically too precise. Vel immediately requested an inspection. Ambassador Jiwan, still calm and pleasant, agreed. Of course, though I should note that facility is primarily a research installation. Rather boring, actually. The inspection team arrived at the lunar facility 2 days later. They were met by Commander Doyen, who introduced himself as the facility director. Welcome, Doyen said with a smile. Please, let me show you around. The tour was comprehensive. Laboratories studying materials science, medical research wings developing treatments for various human ailments, observatories watching distant stars. Everything seemed legitimate. But Vel noticed details. The corridors were wider than necessary. Power conduits were rated for energy loads far exceeding what the visible equipment required. And certain sections were listed as maintenance areas that his scans couldn't penetrate. I would like to see the maintenance sections, Vel said. Doyen's smile never wavered. I'm afraid those areas are currently depressurized for repairs. Safety protocols won't allow visitors. Perhaps on your next visit? Vel noted this in his report. Meanwhile, Captain Siak commanded Earth's defensive fleet, 23 ships by official count, stationed in various positions around the Sol system. They were classified as patrol vessels and defensive monitors. Nothing impressive compared to the main battle fleets of species like the Kelvorians or the Therosians. The Council requested a military exercise to demonstrate Earth's defensive capabilities. Captain Siak agreed immediately. The demonstration took place in empty space beyond Neptune's orbit. Council observers watched from a safe distance as the 23 human ships maneuvered through various defensive scenarios. What troubled the observers wasn't the ships themselves, it was their coordination. They move like a single organism, one observer noted. The precision is unnatural. Even our best fleets don't achieve this level of synchronization. Perhaps they've trained extensively, another suggested. No amount of training explains this. Look at the response times. They're anticipating each other's movements before they happen. Either they have communication technology far superior to ours, or they've been practicing these formations for much longer than 3 centuries. Vel received this report and added it to his growing file. He returned to Earth one more time to interview Dr. Minji again. The ancient warnings mention Earth pretending to sleep, Vel said. What do you think that means? Minji met his eyes. I honestly don't know, Inquisitor. Those civilizations are dead. We have no way to know what they meant. But you've studied the warnings extensively. You translated them. Surely you have theories. My theories are not facts. I'm interested in your theories. Minji hesitated, then spoke carefully. If I had to guess, those ancient civilizations saw something in early humanity that frightened them. Perhaps our adaptability, our resilience, our refusal to accept defeat. But that was millions of years ago. We're different now, are you? Vel asked. Your history shows a species that never stays defeated. You've faced extinction events, ice ages, plagues, famines. Every time you survived and came back stronger. Is that truly different from who you were millions of years ago? Minji had no answer. Vel compiled his final report and presented it to the Council. His findings were disturbing but not conclusive. Evidence of deception, yes. Proof of military threat, no. Patterns suggesting hidden capabilities, certainly. But nothing concrete enough to justify action. Earth is hiding something, Vel concluded. Of that I have no doubt. But I cannot prove what they're hiding or whether it poses a danger to the Council. The Council debated for 3 days. Finally, 3 species formed what they called the Precautionary Alliance. The Kelvorians, the Rithians, and the Paxor Collective announced they would position military fleets near human space as a defensive measure. Just a precaution, the Kelvorian delegate insisted. We mean no aggression. We simply feel more secure with military assets nearby. The announcement was made public. 75 warships from 3 different species began moving toward human territory. Ambassador Ji-Wan stood before the Council one final time before the fleet movements began. Her pleasant expression remained unchanged. The Precautionary Alliance is, of course, free to position its fleets wherever it chooses, she said. However, Earth must point out that moving military assets toward our space without invitation constitutes an act of aggression under Council law. It's a defensive measure, the Kelvorian delegate insisted. Then you won't mind if Earth takes its own defensive measures in response? Ji-Wan asked. Something in her voice made the chamber go silent. That pleasant, calm tone carried an undertone that every species recognized instinctively. The sound a predator makes when it stops pretending to be prey. What measures? Counselor Orn asked quietly. Ji-Wan smiled. Not her pleasant diplomatic smile. A different smile entirely. We call it contingency sigma, she said. Earth invokes it now. The first sign came from Earth's supposedly small colony on Ross 128b. Council sensors detected massive energy signatures emerging from beneath the colony's surface. Within hours, what had appeared to be a farming settlement revealed itself as something else entirely. Defensive platforms rose from underground silos. Shield generators came online, creating a protective barrier around the entire planet. and ship bays opened in the sides of mountains, releasing vessels that made the precautionary alliance's warships look primitive by comparison. How many ships? The Kelvorian fleet commander demanded of his sensors officer. From this one colony, sir? 47. No, wait. 62. They're still launching. The same scene repeated across 13 other human colonies, not 17 as officially claimed. 13 additional colonies that appeared on no council records. Places humanity had settled without permission, without announcement, without anyone noticing. Each hidden colony revealed military installations that had been constructed over centuries. Each one held enough firepower to challenge a major fleet. Commander Doyen stood in the lunar facility's true command center, 3 levels below where Inquisitor Vel had been allowed to visit. Around him, holographic displays showed the entire Sol system and beyond. All stations reporting ready status. An officer reported. Good, Doyen said. Activate the arrays. In the asteroid belt on the moons of Jupiter and Saturn, buried in the Kuiper belt beyond Pluto, defensive installations came to life. They had been hidden in plain sight, disguised as mining operations, research stations, and ice processing facilities. The council sensors watching the Sol system suddenly lit up with contacts. Hundreds of them. The sensor operators couldn't believe what they were seeing. Sir, we're detecting weapons platforms throughout the system. Over 300 major installations. And those are just the ones that want to be seen. Captain Seok stood on the bridge of his flagship. The ship looked the same from outside, but its interior had transformed. Panels slid aside, revealing weapon systems. Power output increased by a factor of 10. The engine signature changed completely. All ships drop the masquerade, Seok commanded. Throughout the Sol system, 23 defensive monitors transformed. Their true capabilities emerged. Each ship carried weapons that could crack planets. Shield systems that could withstand sustained bombardment. Drives that could accelerate them to speeds the Council thought impossible. But more than that, other ships appeared. They had been hiding in the system all along. Their stealth technology so advanced that Council sensors had passed right over them. 40 more capital ships materialized, then 60, then 100. How many ships does Earth actually have? Vel demanded, watching the displays in horror from Nexus Prime. Ambassador G1 stood before the Council Chamber's display, which now showed the full extent of human military power being revealed. Currently active? About 1,400 ships of various classes, she said conversationally, though we can have another 2,000 operational within a month if needed. We've been building them for quite some time. The chamber erupted in chaos. Representatives shouted. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for negotiation. A few simply sat in stunned silence. Councillor Orn raised his hand for silence. It took several minutes for order to return. You have been deceiving the Council for 3 centuries, Orn said, his voice heavy. You have violated every treaty on military limitations. You have built secret colonies. You have hidden your true capabilities while pretending to be a minor power. Why? Jiwan's pleasant expression finally fell away, replaced by something colder. Because the warnings were correct, Counselor. Every single one of them. But not in the way you think. She gestured and a new display appeared, showing the 12 ancient warnings again. These civilizations didn't fear humanity because we're aggressive. They feared us because we don't forget, because we learn, because we adapt. 4 million years ago, something happened. We don't have complete records, but we have enough. Another display activated, showing ancient battlefields on Earth, Mars, and Venus. Archaeological sites that humanity had discovered but never shared with the Council. Millions of years ago, when early humans were just beginning to develop intelligence, we were attacked. Multiple times. By multiple species. They tried to exterminate us while we were still vulnerable. The images showed weapons impacts, orbital bombardment patterns, evidence of systematic genocide attempts. They failed, Jiwan continued. Somehow, against all odds, early humans survived. And we learned. We learned that the galaxy is not safe. We learned that other species will try to destroy potential rivals before they become threats. We learned that showing weakness is an invitation to attack. Dr. Minji appeared on a screen, speaking from Earth. I've spent the last 2 weeks studying the ancient sites. The pattern is clear. 12 different species tried to wipe out humanity when we were at our most vulnerable. They failed, and in their attempts, they weakened themselves. Eventually, they fell to other threats. So you've been preparing for revenge? the Kelvorian delegate asked. No, Jiwan said firmly. We've been preparing to never be victims again. When humanity reached space again, thousands of years after whatever caused our regression, we made a choice. We would join the galactic community. We would follow the rules, sign the treaties, play the diplomatic games, but we would never ever be caught unprepared. General Hana's face appeared on another screen. She stood in a command center deep beneath Earth's surface, surrounded by tactical displays. For 300 years, every human in uniform has trained for one scenario, Hana said. The scenario where the galaxy turns on us, where the other species decide we're too dangerous to allow to exist. We've watched you, studied you, mapped every military installation, every fleet position, every political weakness, not because we want to attack you, because we need to survive you. The precautionary Alliance fleet approaching our territory proves we were right to prepare, Doyen added from the lunar facility. The moment you suspect we might be strong, your first response is military force. The precautionary Alliance fleet, still approaching human space, suddenly found itself in a very different situation. They had positioned 75 warships thinking they faced a minor power. Now they were surrounded. Human ships appeared from stealth, boxing the Alliance fleet in from all sides. More ships than the Alliance had brought. Better ships. Ships that had been watching and tracking the fleet since it left Council space. Captain Siok's voice broadcast on all channels. Alliance fleet, you are now within human defensive space. You have two options. You can return to Council space immediately, or you can continue and discover exactly what those ancient warnings meant. Choose quickly. The Alliance fleet commander looked at his tactical display. His 75 ships against over 200 human vessels, ships that clearly possessed superior technology. His orders had been to intimidate, not to fight. Alliance fleet is withdrawing, he announced, his voice tight with humiliation. Back in the Council chamber, Counselor Orn tried to process everything he was seeing. 3 centuries of deception, hidden military might, technology that shouldn't exist, and the revelation that humanity had been attacked in its prehistoric past. If you're so powerful, why hide it? Orn asked. Why not reveal your strength from the beginning? Jiwan looked at him with tired eyes. Because fear breeds conflict, Counselor. If we had arrived at first contact with military superiority, what would the galaxy have done? You would have formed alliances against us. You would have attacked while you thought you still had a chance. Exactly like you're doing now. So you lied to us. We protected ourselves. There's a difference. What happens now? Vel asked quietly. You've revealed your power. The galaxy knows. What are your intentions? Jiwan was quiet for a moment. That depends on the galaxy, Inquisitor. We don't want war. We never did. But we will fight if we must. And now you know we can win. Lieutenant Yunji, a young officer in Captain Siok's fleet, watched the standoff from her station. She had grown up learning about humanity's secret preparations, training for the day when the truth would be revealed. But now that the moment had arrived, she felt troubled. Sir, she said quietly to her captain, was this really necessary? Deceiving everyone for so long? Siok looked at her with understanding. I asked myself the same question when I was your age, Lieutenant. The answer is complicated. Our grandparents made a choice. They chose survival over honesty. Now we live with that choice. But what if we created the very conflict we were trying to avoid? Then we learn from our mistakes just like we always have. Throughout human space, installations remained at full alert. Ships held their positions. Weapons stayed armed. Earth had dropped its mask and there was no putting it back on. In the Council chamber, representatives began leaving, heading back to their home worlds to report what they had discovered. Some left angry. Others left frightened. A few left thoughtful, wondering if they would have done things differently in humanity's position. Counselor Orn remained seated, staring at the displays showing human military power. General Hana's face was still visible on one screen. General, Orn said, those ancient warnings said Earth only pretends to sleep. Are you sleeping now? Dr. Minji stood in the excavation site on Mars, her breath visible in the thin atmosphere even through her helmet. Her team had been digging here for 2 months, following leads from the ancient warnings. What they found changed everything. Dr. Minji, you need to see this, called one of her assistants, a young researcher named Junho. She walked across the red sand to where Junho stood beside a newly uncovered structure. It was clearly artificial, made from materials that had survived millions of years of Martian weather. The structure's surface was covered in symbols. "It's a record," Junho said, his voice shaking with excitement. "A battle record. And it's written in 3 languages. One matches the ancient warnings. One is from another extinct species. And the third is what?" Minji asked. "It's proto-human, a writing system that matches early human cave paintings on Earth. Dr. Minji, humans wrote this millions of years ago." Minji's heart raced. She began translating immediately, her suit's computer helping process the ancient text. The story that emerged was terrifying. The record described an attack. A fleet from one of the ancient civilizations had come to the Sol system 2 million years ago. They had detected early humans, a species showing signs of intelligence and tool use. The aliens had decided to eliminate this potential threat before it could develop, but humanity hadn't been eliminated. The records described fierce resistance, tactics that shouldn't have been possible for primitive beings. And then, mysteriously, the alien fleet had been destroyed. All of it. Not a single ship escaped. How could early humans destroy a spacefaring civilization's fleet? Junho asked. Minji didn't answer. She was already calling Captain Hyun, requesting immediate transport to Earth's military archives. She had suspicions, terrible suspicions that needed to be confirmed. 2 days later, Minji stood in a secure facility beneath the Amazon rainforest. Commander Doyen had granted her access to humanity's deepest secrets, files that only a handful of people knew existed. "We've known the truth for 70 years, Doyen told her, "since we first started exploring Mars and Venus seriously. We found the battlefields, we found the evidence, and we found something else." He led her to a vault. Inside were artifacts that had been recovered from various sites throughout the solar system. Weapons, tools, and technology that dated back millions of years. Human technology. Our ancestors weren't primitive, Doyen explained. They were advanced. Very advanced. They had spaceflight, energy weapons, possibly even more sophisticated technology than we have now. And then it all disappeared. Minji picked up one artifact carefully. It was a crystalline device that hummed slightly in her hands. "What happened? How did we lose all of this?" "We think it was deliberate. The records we've found suggest that after defeating the 12th alien invasion, human civilization made a choice. They saw that their advancement made them targets. So they regressed, purposefully. They hid their technology, scattered their knowledge, and returned to a simpler existence. But why? To survive. If the galaxy thought humans were dangerous when advanced, maybe they'd ignore us if we appeared primitive. It was the ultimate deception, one that lasted millions of years." Minji sat down heavily, overwhelmed by the implications. "So humanity has been playing this game for millions of years? Pretending to be less than we are? It's in our nature now. We learned it works. When we reached space again in the 20th century, we instinctively knew to hide our true capabilities. The lesson was coded into our cultural memory, our survival instincts." Ambassador Jiwon joined them, having returned from Nexus Prime. "The truth needs to come out, Minji. All of it. The galaxy needs to understand we're not the aggressors. We're survivors. Will they believe it?" Minji asked. "They'll have to. We have proof." Minji compiled her findings into a comprehensive report. Archaeological evidence, linguistic analysis, technological artifacts, and the ancient battle records. Together, they painted a picture of a species that had been hunted, had fought back, and had chosen to hide rather than risk extinction. She presented her findings to the Galactic Council 1 week later. The chamber was packed. Every species had sent representatives, and this time they came ready to listen rather than accuse. The holographic displays showed the Mars excavation site, the ancient texts, and the timeline of attacks on early humanity. Minji walked them through 12 separate extinction attempts spread across 2 million years. Each time, she explained, human civilization was attacked during a vulnerable stage. When we were just developing agriculture, when we first discovered fire, when we began using tools. These weren't random attacks. They were systematic attempts to prevent humanity from becoming a threat. The alien representatives watched in silence as evidence mounted. Battle sites on 3 planets. Orbital bombardment patterns. Records left by the attacking civilizations themselves, describing their fear of humanity's potential. The architects, Minji continued, referencing the first civilization to leave warnings, didn't attack humanity out of malice. They genuinely believed humans would eventually become dangerous, so they tried to eliminate us preemptively. They failed. And in their failure, they weakened themselves enough that they eventually fell to other threats. The same pattern repeated 11 more times. 12 civilizations saw humanity as a future threat. 12 civilizations attacked. 12 civilizations eventually fell. Inquisitor Vel stood up. Are you suggesting humanity destroyed these civilizations? No, Minji said firmly. We're saying they destroyed themselves. Each time they attacked Earth, they committed enormous resources to a war of extermination. They neglected other threats. They made enemies. They overextended. Human resistance wore them down. But they fell because they chose genocide over coexistence. She displayed the final piece of evidence, records from the last invasion attempt, dated to approximately 200,000 years ago. The attackers had been a civilization called the Devourers, known for conquering and absorbing other species. The Devourers sent their entire fleet to exterminate humans, Minji said. They believed we were close to developing faster-than-light travel. They wanted to stop us before we could spread beyond Earth. But by the time they arrived, human civilization had already collapsed. The advanced society was gone. Only primitive tribes remained. What happened to the Devourer fleet? They found nothing worth destroying. A species that appeared to have regressed to Stone Age technology, so they left considering the threat eliminated. They returned home to find their empire in chaos, having been invaded by rivals while their fleet was away. Within 1,000 years, the Devourers were extinct, and humanity slowly rebuilt, this time keeping our true history hidden. Counselor Orn studied the evidence carefully. You're saying your species has been deliberately limiting its apparent development for hundreds of thousands of years? Our ancestors learned that being seen as advanced meant being targeted, Minji replied. So they hid. They forgot purposefully so completely that even we didn't know the truth until recently. It was the ultimate survival strategy. Lieutenant Yunji, watching the presentation from her ship, felt her doubts growing. She opened a private channel to Captain Siak. Sir, if this is all true, are we doing the same thing? Are we perpetuating the cycle by hiding our strength? Siak was quiet for a moment. That's the question, isn't it, Lieutenant? Our ancestors hid to survive. Now we're strong enough that we don't need to hide. But we still do because the habit is ingrained. Maybe it's time to break the cycle. In the council chamber, the representatives argued among themselves. Some believed the evidence. Others thought it was an elaborate deception designed to justify human military power. Then General Hana appeared on the displays again, broadcasting from Earth. I want to show you something, she said. Something we should have shown the galaxy from the beginning. The displays shifted to show Earth's military command structure. Not just ships and weapons, but the philosophy behind them. Training programs focused on defensive tactics. Weapon systems designed to disable rather than destroy. Protocols that emphasized protecting allies over attacking enemies. Every human officer takes an oath, Hana explained. We swear to protect Earth, yes, but we also swear to never become the aggressors our ancestors faced. We built this military not to conquer, but to ensure no one could ever try to exterminate us again. She showed footage of human soldiers training alongside troops from other species, joint exercises that had been conducted in secret, preparing for scenarios where humans and aliens would fight together against common threats. For 30 years, we've been training with volunteers from 12 different species, Hana revealed, always in secret, because we didn't want to reveal our capabilities. But we've been preparing to defend the galaxy, not conquer it. Commander Doyen added his own revelation. The lunar facility Inquisitor Vel inspected? The sections he couldn't see? They weren't weapon factories. They were refugee shelters, built to house billions of beings from any species if catastrophe strikes. We've been preparing to save lives, not take them. This revelation caused the most shock. Humanity had built facilities capable of sheltering multiple species, maintained them in secret, and never mentioned them because doing so would have revealed the extent of human construction capabilities. 3 weeks after Ambassador Jiwan's proposal for transparency, the galaxy remained in chaos. The precautionary alliance had dissolved, but new military alliances were forming. Species that had ignored their armed forces for generations suddenly started building warships. An arms race was beginning, driven by fear of human capabilities. Captain Hyun watched this development from the bridge of the Quiet Dawn. His ship had sparked this crisis by finding the ancient warnings. Now he was determined to help resolve it. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from deep space," his communications officer reported. "It's coming from the edge of the Alpha Centauri sector. The signal is old, very old." Hyun leaned forward. "How old?" "Based on the signal degradation, it's been broadcasting for approximately 5 million years. It's automated, repeating the same message continuously. And Captain, it's addressed to humanity." The message, once translated, was simple but profound. It came from a civilization that called themselves the Harmonious Ones. Unlike the 12 species that had left warnings, the Harmonious Ones had left a message of hope. "We met your ancestors when they first reached for the stars," the message began. "They were young, aggressive, and frightening to behold. We nearly attacked them as others did, but we chose differently. We chose to speak with them, to learn from them, to befriend them." The message described a golden age of cooperation between early humans and the Harmonious Ones. Technology shared freely. Resources exchanged, knowledge built together. For thousands of years, the two species had been allies. "Your ancestors taught us the value of adaptability," the message continued. "We taught them the value of patience. Together, we thrived while others fell. When the 12th invasion came, we fought alongside humanity. We helped your people survive. But then came the revelation that changed everything. When your ancestors chose to regress, to hide their advancement, we supported their decision. We understood their fear. We helped them bury their technology, scatter their records, and return to simpler ways. And we made our own choice. We left this galaxy entirely, seeking new frontiers among distant stars. We chose to remove ourselves rather than risk becoming a target like you had become. We leave this message for the day when humanity rises again. When you rediscover your history and face the galaxy's fear, know this: your nature is not to destroy, but to survive. Your aggression is not malice, but defense. You are capable of both great violence and great kindness. Choose kindness when you can. Choose violence only when you must. And tell the galaxy this truth: humanity does not need to conquer. Humanity needs only to be left alone. Give them that peace and they will never threaten you. Deny them that peace and they will fight with a ferocity born of millions of years of survival." Captain Hyun forwarded the message to Earth Command immediately. Within hours, it was being broadcast throughout human space and shared with the Galactic Council. Dr. Minji read the message 3 times, tears streaming down her face. Here was proof that humanity could coexist peacefully with alien species, that cooperation was possible, that the cycle of fear and violence could be broken. Lieutenant Yoonji read the message and felt something shift inside her. She requested a meeting with Captain Seok. "Sir, the Harmonious Ones chose to leave rather than participate in the cycle of fear," she said. "Maybe we should do the same. Maybe humanity should withdraw from galactic civilization rather than force others to live in fear of us." Seok considered this carefully. "That's one option, Lieutenant. But is running away really better than standing our ground? The Harmonious Ones left to avoid becoming targets. We stayed and built defenses. Different choices for different species. But our choice is creating an arms race. The galaxy is militarizing because of fear of us. The galaxy is militarizing because they finally see the truth. Better they prepare to defend themselves than live in ignorance. At least now everyone understands the reality of galactic politics. Strength matters. Always has, always will." Yoonji wasn't satisfied with this answer. She began speaking with other young officers, both human and alien. A movement started to form, advocating for genuine peace rather than peace through strength. Meanwhile, the Galactic Council continued to debate. Counselor Orn had spent weeks reviewing all the evidence, reading the reports, studying humanity's true history. He called a private meeting with Ambassador Ji-won. They met on a neutral station, just the two of them, without guards or advisors. "I believe your story," Orn said finally. "I believe humanity was hunted, that you survived through deception, that your military buildup is fundamentally defensive." "I believe all of it, but," Ji-won asked, sensing more to come. "But belief doesn't solve the problem. The galaxy now knows you're powerful. Knowing that, species will prepare for conflict with you. That preparation will make you feel threatened, so you'll prepare more. They'll see your preparation and prepare more themselves. It's a spiral that ends in war regardless of anyone's intentions." Ji-won nodded slowly. "You're describing the security dilemma. We're familiar with the concept. Then you know there's no good solution. Transparency helps, but it doesn't eliminate fear. Fear of capability is rational regardless of stated intentions. So what do you suggest?" Orn was quiet for a long moment. I suggest we change the fundamental structure of galactic politics. Right now, the Council is a loose alliance of independent powers. Each species maintains its own military, its own territory, its own sovereignty. That structure creates competition and conflict. What's the alternative? A true federation. Species maintain their sovereignty in internal matters, but surrender military power to a combined federal force. Every species contributes, every species has representation, but no single species can threaten the others. Jiwan laughed bitterly. You're suggesting humanity surrender the military might we spent centuries building? I'm suggesting everyone surrender their military might, including species much weaker than humanity. It would be proportional, and if we refuse, then the spiral continues. Eventually it ends in war. A war humanity might win, but at what cost? How many billions dead? How much destruction? Is that preferable to taking a chance on genuine peace? Jiwan returned to Earth and presented Orn's proposal to General Hana and Commander Doyen. The debate that followed was fierce. We built this military to prevent another extinction attempt, Hana argued. Now you want us to surrender it? To trust the same galactic community that tried to exterminate us 12 times? Those species are extinct, Doyen countered. The current civilizations weren't responsible for what happened millions of years ago. Are we going to punish them for crimes they didn't commit? We're not punishing anyone. We're protecting ourselves. By making everyone else feel threatened? By forcing them to build militaries to counter us? How is that protection? That's just creating the conflict we wanted to avoid. The debate spread beyond military leadership. Citizens across Earth and its colonies argued about the proposal. Some supported it as the only path to genuine peace. Others saw it as surrendering the security humanity had fought so hard to achieve. Lieutenant Yunji became a vocal advocate for the Federation idea. She gave speeches, wrote articles, and organized discussions. Her youth and idealism attracted supporters, especially among younger humans who had grown up during the current crisis. My grandparents built our military out of fear, she said during one public forum. That fear was justified. But we can't live in fear forever. At some point we have to take a risk on peace. Otherwise, what's the point of all this strength? Just to survive? Don't we want to thrive? Her words resonated with many, but not all. Captain Siak represented the opposition viewpoint. Peace is good, he acknowledged. But peace built on strength is stable. Peace built on trust can shatter the moment that trust breaks. We've seen what happens when humanity is vulnerable. We have a responsibility to prevent that from happening again. The debate reached Earth's civilian government. Representatives voted on whether to accept Orn's proposal. The vote was close, 54% in favor. 46% against. Ambassador Jiwan returned to the Galactic Council with Earth's conditional acceptance. Humanity will participate in a galactic federation, she announced. But only if every major species makes the same commitment. We need genuine collective security, not just humans disarming while others maintain their militaries. Orn nodded. That was always the intention. I've been speaking with other species. Many are willing, but some oppose it. Over the next 3 months, 40 species joined the Federation. They signed treaties, restructured their governments, and began integrating their militaries into a combined federal force. The process was messy, complicated, and frequently frustrating, but slowly it worked. General Hana oversaw humanity's contribution to the federal military. She ensured that human defensive doctrine became part of federal training, the focus on protecting rather than conquering, the emphasis on precision over overwhelming force. Commander Doyen opened the lunar facilities to federal inspectors. They saw the refugee shelters, the research installations, and yes, the weapons factories. Everything was documented, measured, and integrated into federal resource planning. Dr. Minji established the Institute for Shared History, exactly as planned. It